Here at Troy University Fan Day, right after a big scrimmage on campus and right before the big fan appreciation night tonight. A lot of excitement about Troy football, and we're here to tell you about it. On the camera to the left, Junior Louissaint. Jerry Miller beside him. Beside me, Chris Blackshear. I'm the voice of the Trojans, Barry McKnight. And fellas, this is an exciting time. A Sun Belt Conference championship, Jerry, a Cure Bowl championship, and an epic football game. Didn't seem like that long ago. Last year, though, is last year. A lot of great memories, a lot of accomplishments for this team, Jerry, and a lot that you can build off of, right?
Yeah, and I want to just soak up as much of last year as I possibly can, because what a tremendous season. There's been so much buzz about the turnaround under John Sumrall, and it just unfolded in so many ways, and we weren't sure that would happen. I remember us coming back from Appalachian State just wondering how this season would turn out, but looking back, I think that was the launch pin for this season. That was the defining time for this season, for this team to decide, hey, are we going to be something, or are we going to let this define us? And boy, did they ever turn it around. 11 straight after that. Sun Belt Championship. Just so many accolades. First time this team's ever been ranked after the bowl season. 19th in the AP poll, winning the Cure Bowl, as you said. And I think there's so much that we can reflect on and enjoy there. But boy, when you talk to Coach Sumrall, that's last year. We're not defending that. We're 0-0. We got to start over right now.
And Chris, when you look at last year, and everybody talks about it being a dream season, well, none of it was easy. It seems like every game was difficult. The difference in wins and losses a year ago was that big, and they had the chemistry and the culture to pull that off a year ago. Now they've got to try to replicate that, and that's no easy chore.
Yeah, and you think back to the previous season before Coach Sumrall and his staff arrived on campus, the margin was that close as well for back-to-back seasons. And one thing when he got here, and he made no bones about it, the cupboards weren't completely bare when it came from a talent perspective that this program had. It just needed little tweaks and a little more guidance in different areas. And they put that together. Now the challenge is going to be, and when we see the junior, you, especially you as a former player, one of the biggest things that we've seen a lot of is really going to be just how do you forget about 2022? Because that is in the past. You see so many teams that win a conference championship or a national championship think that's going to catapult them and carry them through the next season that's out there in front of the table. That's the biggest thing I think, Barry, is going to be psychologically. One, how do you get this team kind of backgrounded and realize this team's proven nothing? Secondly, you lost a lot of experience last year that in their career lost a lot of close games that I think helped them last year realize it was a 60-minute game, and they had one more feeling when it happened at Appalachian State with that last-second Hail Mary, and they were like, we're not going to finish our senior season the way our sophomore and junior years went, and I think that's a big part of the 11 consecutive victories to end the season.
Junior, when you think about that, Chris is exactly right, at least in my memory. What about you?
Exactly, and this is the fashion, the way those guys won last year. All the close games, they kept fighting, they never gave up. The previous years prior to that, we'll lose those type of games. And those guys, and the reason that they won those games is not only because of Coach Sumrall, but because of the fact that those guys was tired the previous 3 years not making bowl games and losing those close games, 5-win seasons. They're not used to that, and for them to come out last year and perform the way they did, that was just tremendous how they done it. And as a player, it's hard to put that behind you and step into the new season, because now you're on top of the food chain. Everybody's gunning for you now. So before it was us. Everybody kind of chose out, so we was hunting for everybody else. But now we're on top of the food chain. Everybody expects us to be the same that we were last year, but this is a totally different team, right? And so we have a lot of veteran guys, but it's just the mindset of coming out this year and performing the same way we did last year, but even better.
I think Junior makes a great point, because one of the big things that Coach Sumrall brought to this program was a change in the culture. As Chris said, a lot of the same players. It wasn't a big difference in the talent level when he got here, but I think it was the culture, the excitement, the expectations that he put there for the players, and they responded to that. And I think that will carry over to this year. He's not going to let it stay there. He's going to raise those expectations and continue to change that culture into to where nothing short of winning is acceptable.
We've all been to practices this fall. We've all seen some of the new players. Let's start with this, Chris. Where are the positions, without even naming personnel, what are the positions that you're most interested in seeing produce early on here? What are the groups that really need to have some questions answered?
Well, I think number one, it starts up front with the offensive line. Because we've got a quarterback room that's got some experience and it's got some depth in it. And then you flip over to the running back room where we got 3-4 guys that really could step up at any time and have a big game for you. But all of that's predicated upon what the big guys do up front. You know, that was last year the coaches were very vocal about. That was an area not only did we have to get better at with our ones, but we had to build some depth. We had guys interchanging from guard to tackle all last season because of depth perspective. We've gone into the JUCO ranks. We brought some of those in. But how they gel and mesh early as a group will dictate how much success we have early.
I certainly agree with the offensive line. I'm looking at the linebacker core. I think we've got talent and depth up front on the defensive side. We've got a lot of experience and depth in the back end. But what do you do to replace Marshall, Robertson, those guys that were not only players but that were leaders? We're going to have somebody in that group to really step up and make a difference on the defensive side of the ball.
Junior, which is harder? You've played on championship teams here before. Which do you think would be harder? Winning a championship or defending a championship?
I would say defending it.
I would imagine so.
Now you have something to lose.
Yeah.
You know, you have. You have to perform even better than what you did last year. Because, like I said, everybody's gunning out for you.
That's right.
And those guys mentioned two positions that's real key for this series up in the year. I mean, it's hard replacing 3 offensive linemen from the team that we had last year. And not only that, you replaced Coach Popovich, which was a great offensive line coach, you know, that had those guys going. And now you have the receiving crew, losing a guy like Ted Johnson, and you have those guys like Marcus Rogers that needs to step up. And so it's going to be a great challenge. It's going to be hard defending this championship this year.
We'll name some names in just a moment, but he mentioned losing some of the coaches. Greg Gasparato, Chris, we all know, the new defensive coordinator, is from the Shieldwood tree. Not going to be a whole lot different there. Joe Bernardi on the offensive line. Like Junior said, there's some new guys there, some really talented guys, but those two guys seem to really mesh in terms of what this program's about and what Coach Sumrall wants from his role models.
Right, you think about Joe and Popovich also have some history as well, too. They're cut from the same cloth. So from a X's and O's perspective, you plug and played basically, so you didn't have to completely revamp everything that you did. This was somebody that really could have came in year one with Coach Sumrall's staff, and now you have them back. And, every coach, they always tell you, you're a good head coach, you got that drawer pulled out with your top 1, 2, 3 replacements, at every single position. But they fit right in. It seems like from the scrimmage today as well and the other practice. You go the championship season and you win 12 games. You have as much attention this program had last year. I'm very surprised, and this is, again, tip of the cap to the administration of Coach Sumrall, that you were able to keep as many of your staff as you did coming back in year 2.
Jerry, you've called a lot of championship teams yourself, with all the questions that every team has that has won a championship coming back. To be able on offense to have a 6th-year senior quarterback and an all-conference 1,000-yard rusher at running back, those are good places to start, aren't they?
No, you're not kidding. And I think they will, not just from what they bring when they line up a game day, but it's the leadership that guys like Gunnar Watson and Kamani Vidal that have stepped up and taken that leadership role. You take Gunnar, he's back, he's a graduate. He's back because he wants to do something special. He could have moved on with his career. He's got his degree. Everything's good. He's back. A guy like that's not going to come back, as Coach Sumrall said, to dip his toe in the water. He's going to come back to be all in. So I'm really looking for Gunnar to have his best season yet. And then that room has gotten a little deeper too. So much buzz around Goose Crowder and him coming over. We watched him today in practice. He can step up and lead this team, win, and if needed. But I think you're right. It's some depth of some guys that are back, and the leadership more so even than what they do on the field. To me, I think it's going to be most valuable for this team.
Junior Louissaint, you've been in practice before. Defensively, you lose Carlton Marshall, you lose K.J. Robertson, people like that. But I like the look of these guys. They got a lot of guys who can run. They got a lot of guys who are physical. And physicality seems to continue to be the real key word for this defense at Troy.
And definitely, it starts in the weight room with Coach Witt. I mean, he get those guys going throughout the summer. They've been they've been after it. Even he's been getting a little work out himself. And when you lose guys like Carlton Marshall, you can't replace a guy like Carlton. You can't replace a guy like KJ. But we have guys that can able to step up, like Jaden McDonald. He'll be able to step up and get in there. And that front four is going to be probably the best in the Sun Belt. And those guys ready to go. Minus some of the guys we lost through some issues throughout the offseason. But I think the defense is going to be up there. I'm not saying that we have the same amount of depth that we had last year, but they're flying around and they're looking good out there.
Well, I got a question for you. Javon Solomon was named one of the freaks of college football the other day. Have you been his personal trainer? I mean, y'all kind of similar, it looks like. Is he using your workout program?
And listen, I don't know what kind of workout he's using, but I need some of it myself.
But that's the thing. I'm talking about people like that. You think about, we lost so much experience on the other side. There's a couple guys that got bit by the injury bug that are coming back that have some experience that we really didn't call their name last year. They were on the sideline that's coming back and potentially could plug some of those holes, Jerry, you were alluding to earlier, that we lost with KJ and Carlton in the middle, especially.
Yeah, and you've got some guys, I think, that are prepared to really have a breakout season. We got flashes from Gibernor last year. I think he's a guy that could make a difference. Junior mentions McDonald, who's battling some injuries and all. But we've seen McDonald, when he is healthy, he is a difference maker. And then I look to the guys behind him. You've got such talent and leadership back there in Dale Pettis and Reddy Stewart and some of these transfers that have come in that have already made a name. We'll be able to play a lot of man coverage, a lot of press coverage, and allow more people in the box to try to neutralize the opponent's run, to put some pressure on that quarterback. And I'm telling you, these guys are flying to the football. We saw that at the scrimmage today. They may make a mistake every now and then, might get burned every now and then, but I guarantee you offenses are not going to want to line up and defend these guys snap after snap because pressures are coming from everywhere.
Well, Junior already mentioned Jaden McDonald. I think that's perceptive because, gosh, he was off to such a good start last year before he got hurt in the Appalachian State game. Terry Thomas came in for Carlton Marshall, who didn't play in that game, and Terry was spectacular in that game. I think, Chris, you were talking with Asa Martin, one of the running backs in spring, and, he had just transferred in, and he told you, he said, Terry Thomas is a walk-on?
Yeah, that's spring balls when we Terry got a scholarship.
Right.
Terry, he just a walk-on.
Yeah.
He said, that boy good.
I'm telling you.
Good. I mean, and it's true. You think about that. That's the type of talent that you have there, and it's always about finding your opportunity and living it out, fulfilling it out, and battling every day. And that's what happened to Terry.
I'm looking at the offensive side of the football, and you've already talked about some of the things we're anxious to see on the offensive line and at wide receiver. Offensive line, you lose Austin Stidham, you lose Jake Andrews, who's playing for the Patriots right now, and you lose DeAndre Butler up front. But you've got guys again. They may not have done it, but they've got the potential. I love Derek Graham, and his athleticism. I love the transfer center, Eli Russ. They look on the offensive line, correct me if I'm wrong, Jerry, for versatility as much as anything else. Guys who can play different positions and fill different roles, they just haven't done it yet.
And even some of the guys that we had, the depth that we have now on the offensive line gives them a chance to maybe move to more natural positions. I think that's going to be the key. This offensive line, we see depth and we see size. Junior, you're an offensive lineman. What we've got to find is the people who fit those roles in the first and second unit, and they can duplicate that effort day after day. Because I looked at the size out there today. We've got some guys up on that line that are as big as we've ever had, and not just big, but athletic, versatile. I really like that unit, and we saw them, if you remember, about midway of the scrimmage today, they really started to get that run game going, and they were pushing downhill. They were opening up some holes for those running backs, and if they can just get a few reps and build the chemistry, I really like the way they look for sure.
And definitely, that's one of my concerns coming into this season. Who's going to replace those three starters from last year? And we've done a great job going into the portal and going to the JUCO route rather than getting some freshmen to come in, and that allow us to have more depth from some of the guys that was here last year. And those guys, man, they look very excellent throughout the spring. I mean, I've been through a few practices, and they're after it. They're giving the defense a run for their money, and those guys, man, and they talking about the running game is actually better than what it was last year because of that line.
And we saw the run game. I think there is some work still to do on pass protection a little bit from what we saw today. But if they can dial that in, I think they have a chance to be a real complete unit. It is a question mark, as Chris said earlier, and a unit that we're going to be watching, but I think the potential is certainly there.
Junior, you blocked in your Troy career for the all-time leading rusher at Troy University, DeWitt Betterson, and we still can't think of a more decisive runner. When he hit a hole, he hit it with some purpose. Do you see a lot of that out of Kamani Vidal? Because he certainly reminds me of him. What about you?
Kamani is that in some. You know, Kamani is a little bit faster, and he's finding the holes. He's one of those backs where he makes it very easy and simple to block for. Because no matter where you take your block, your defender, he's going to find that crease and he's going to hit it each and every time. And that's what makes him great, and it will make this offense a whole lot better.
Nothing like a run game to help ease things for Gunnar Watson as well.
It is. We saw that last year because Summerall challenged the guys up front. We're going to run the football. We effectively did it. Because you would think it was DK early on in the season when Kamani went 100%. When Kamani came back, then it's like, man, we need the ball more so we can divide up these carries more. But there was not a single game in the 2022 season, from my perspective, that both of those guys had a bad game the same week. And I think that us being that consistent in the running game really helped us. And Barry, the last thing, from my perspective, I'm really looking forward to this season, that there was a question mark to me, was special teams. You know, we've seen them struggle at times during preseason camp, but they had a great scrimmage today. Several field goals, 50 yards, 2-minute drill and stuff. So special teams, we're having a new punter, you got a new place kicker. That's big in games when you run up in the defense and you got to have some points on the board. That's critical.
One of the things that when we brought up the point about guys who were hurt last year, who are healthier, you talk about Jaden McDonald. Coach Summerall told you and me, Jerry, in the offseason that the offense changed when Jabri Barber got hurt. He's back at 100%. You can slot him. You can put some of those tight ends in slot from it. Again, you want a lot of versatility. And for a guy like Jabri Barber, who was going great guns last year before the injury, boy, having him over there, a guy who's not only a really productive player, but one of those locker room and leadership-wise, I look for him to have a big year.
I think so. He's going to be hungry. We know he is a difference maker. And I think just having him back is going to be such a plus for that group who have some question marks, but have a lot of talent as well. We've looked at them just from a physical standpoint. We've got some big receivers. We've got some tall receivers. Now, can they learn how to run routes? Can they learn how to shed blocks? Can they learn how to win a jump ball? Can they do those things? Because I think we've got quarterbacks that can get the ball to them. Who's going to step up and help Jabri Barber be a big play guy? Because I think Jabri's going to be a big play guy.
No doubt.
So if there are a couple of others that can step up, and I think there are, even though I think we will be a little more of a downhill rushing team, I think you'll see a little more of that, a little more physicality up front. I still think they're going to look for the big ball. They're going to look for opportunities to get chunk yardage. And I think we're going to have the receivers to do that. But to your point, yes, Jabri Barber can be a difference maker for this team.
One of the things also Coach Summerall has told us, Junior, during the offseason is, last year's done. This year's team hasn't won a single game. You don't know what the culture is going to be like. I understand the coach speaking that. I don't have any doubts the culture is going to be there. Coach Summerall, the staff, Rusty Witten, those kind of people. You got any worries about the culture here at Troy University, Junior?
Not at all, because Coach Summerall makes it so much comfortable to be able to accept what they're doing and the changes they've addressed. I mean, as a leader on this team, it makes it that much easier because the players already know what coach is expecting.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be that rah-rah type of leader. All you have to do is show up, and those guys already know what to expect because he has already set the standards already. And Coach Witt does the same thing in the weight room. And it makes it that much easier to go out and just, as a leader, just play and talk to your players and let's just go out and perform.
Yeah, and I think that to the point now in this program is we're going to do it our way, find somewhere else to go. I got somebody else lined up to come in and do it our way. And I think that was the biggest thing you saw last year, too, as the season went on. The leaders started leading themselves. Coaches were still coaching the X's and O's, but the characteristics and the core qualities of this program that Summerall looks for, those players know it. And they lived it and they breathed it, and they're carrying that over now as well, too. So that's got to make it a lot easier. I think it's a coaching staff as well, too, when he goes through that.
Yeah, and what I think when we're talking about culture, because, Barry, I think you're right. Last season's gone. We can't build on that. We're 0-0. But what you can build on and take with you this year, and these coaches have done that, is how it impacts recruiting. Because people were paying attention to what happened last year. They looked at what Troy was doing. They looked at what Coach Sumrall was doing. And those recruits pay attention to that. They share it on social media. So it builds a bit of excitement out in the recruiting world. And we've seen that, Junior. This coaching staff has been able to not have to depend on any one source. They haven't had to depend on the JUCO route. They haven't had to depend just on the transfer portal. They haven't had to depend just on the high school recruiting. But it's given them an opportunity to pull the best of the best from all of those pools, and that's generated from what happened last year. What you want to do is build on that, because the more you do it, the more this team is exposed, the more the brand is put out there. There's an excitement about it, and these players realize, hey, I can get to the next level at Troy just as easy as I can from any of the Power Fives.
Definitely, and it starts with the staff that Chris mentioned. I mean, those guys, you guys not in locker room throughout the games. Me and Chris is in there,
right.
And all those coaches, they're always together. They're joking. They're doing something with each other, and I mean, and it starts with the coaching, and now the players fall in line, and it makes it that much easier for guys not to leave and go to the portal. They stay, and other players sees that, and they want to be part of this culture and the way we're doing it.
Chris, I want to ask you this in terms of what's ahead for this team. When you look at the Sun Belt Conference as it relates to Troy's schedule, Coastal Carolina's a good team. Georgia Southern's going to be better this year. They are not on the Troy schedule this year. James Madison's going to be good. South Alabama's going to be good. Louisiana's going to be good. But they all have to come to the vet, Chris.
Absolutely. And success breeds success. That's the season tickets, the marketing, everything that comes around. You think about what we see now. The Stadium Club sold out.
Yep.
The North End Zone sold out. The little hospitality tables is sold out as well, too. That's all because of what happened in this football program last year. So the excitement and the buzz is there. And last year was a very difficult place to play last year. And you're right, that's a big advantage having those very good teams come to us here, because Coach Sumrall and this coaching staff really talks about defending your home turf, because we got that Monroe trip. And no matter how good of a team we have, it's just something in that area that's down there. So there's some difficult road trips to even get to from a travel perspective, Jerry. When you look at it, but love having them coming here. Love having them in the vet. But we're going to find out really early, even before we get into Sunbelt play, exactly where we are after this first 2 weeks.
You know, another thing, Barry, we're here on Fan Day, and one of the things to me that makes Troy such a special place, Coach Sumrall's right behind us. He's right behind us. If you're a fan, you can get up close and personal. You can talk to the head coach. You can talk to this coaching staff who are all around the corner signing autographs. The players are there. You can't do that at everywhere that you go. And I think this coaching staff understands that. And that, I think, breeds excitement among the fans. We had a good crowd out at the scrimmage today. Fan Day is going great behind us. And just being able to be that close and personal, and these coaches being available to the fans, I think is huge. And also the players love that. They understand how important the fans are. They love mingling. They love hearing the fans talk to them and talk about their play and wish them well. That's all big. It creates a family environment, and I think that is somewhat unique for this Troy program.
Well, the schedule itself opens on September the 2nd here at the Vet against Stephen F. Austin. Some tickets are available, but you better hurry. TroyTrojans.com/tickets or on the Troy Athletics app, or by calling 1-877-878-WINS. We'll be broadcasting it along the Troy Sports Radio Network. Junior, I can't wait to get things kicked off.
I've been waiting for a while now. I'm at practice. I mean, every chance I get, I come out there and watch those guys practice, man. Just like, I know the season's getting closer and closer, but I just can't wait.
DeMarcus Ware Day will open up the season against Stephen F. Austin, who for many of us is a familiar foe, used to be in the league with those guys, handed us our first Southland Conference loss when we joined that conference, although we went on to win the league that year. But they'll be tough. They won't take us for granted. We better not take them for granted, but I can't wait to be out there in Tailgate Terrace, opening up our show prior to the game, because it's going to be a fun time.
Well, all I got to say, June, let's start getting some of those liquid IVs now. Because I was thinking, you're like, hey, you're not in the locker room like us. We're like, yes, only 30 minutes we can get here.
We're saying that's a good thing, right?
That's a good thing. Can we extend halftime? So it should be a lot of fun.
For Jerry Miller, Jr., Louissaint, Chris Blackshear, I'm Barry McKnight. We'll see you at the Vet.